Hello and welcome back to my stream. What I want to do today is pick up where I left off last night. Our paint has now fully dried because it's acrylic. Um, and I have briefly smoothed it out a bit with some uh, very soft sandpaper to kind of get rid of some of the excess paint, make our surface a little bit flatter. And what I want to do today is really focus on this area of the painting because it's going to be really special, as well as start to block in some of this area as well. So what I've done to begin is mix in some cadmium red, cadmium yellow into the blues that we were working with yesterday. And what I've done is mixed this very, very cool goldenish green color you're seeing there. And with my flat brush, I'm just going to come right in here and begin to add this right in. What I'm really trying to do is brighten up the sky and add some warmth to it. Just pulling that right up like that. Rinsing off my flat brush again. Onto some paper towel. And then I also have right next to that a kind of a pinker tone. And I'm going to take that and come right in next to that, maybe a little bit above it as well. And just kind of let those two colors mix together and move up. And blend a bit with the blue that's beneath them. The beauty of doing this when it's dry is that that blue that's underneath now will stay. That's not going to go anywhere. It's now muted. I can't change it ever. Um, and this is going to help me to create that warmer feel that I'm looking for. And what I'm just going to keep doing is just alternating applying these golden and kind of rosé tones starting from down here and letting it kind of grow out. As I add more of this color on, I may also begin to add on more and more cadmium yellow as I kind of tack on more of this paint. Good. Now, clean my brush off again. And I still have those same blues on my canvas. Back into my more rosé color, mixing in a little more of the yellowish color. And kind of starting right here and pulling this up. And I'm just going to slowly fill in the top part of the canvas. I'm not particularly worried about the shapes that are happening along the top here. Those are going to go away as I fill in the canvas. Now, into a color that has a little more blue mixed into it. Just kind of going to begin to try to add some more depth and layers to our sky. And letting these colors mix a little bit, interact on the canvas, and create a little more complexity. In our sky, while also not trying to go too far into our bright spot. I want to make sure that I'm doing a good job of maintaining that bright area. Back into that same more bluish color, a little bit more of the gold and red mixed in. And now on this side, we do the same. And again, really just letting these mix and hang out together, and letting them become one with the color underneath. Now, I'm taking a color that is much more in the yellow and beginning down here, and I'm working my way up. Trying to follow roughly along that treetop line. And we're going to reinforce this later on when we add more light onto our treetops. Again, just trying to let this spread across along this bottom here. And what my goal here is to create a little glow that will shine over the tops of our trees. Spreading this out as much as I can. Cleaning up my brush. Back into a very similar color. Starting from the brightest area again and working my way toward the right. Taking a more bluish tone and starting from over here and working my way back up. Similar tone. This is a bit more violet, so I chose to move it on to the left-hand side. Again, I want the left-hand side to be a little darker than the right. And I'm just going to push this down a little more, just stop bouncing around so much. Back into that similar kind of more violet shade. Right along this top corner here. By using a smaller brush, it's also allowing me to bounce into different areas of the painting more easily. And that's allowing the paint, I think, to dry a little more rapidly than we did last night. Which will let me really put more thorough layers on here as we go along. Cleaning my brush off. Back into a more bluish green color. Starting on the right hand side here. And just letting this come across. Giving myself a little more stick to work with. And I'm trying to make sure that I'm not drawing with the brush. Cleaning my brush off, tucking it back into my clean bowl to wash that again. And I'm going to go back into a color that's going to be a little more muted of a gray. A lot of paint on the brush here because I want to fill in this area here quite a lot and let that come across. A lot of paint on the brush. One of my other goals here was to get rid of some of the bald spots that we had here and here in the beginning. And I kind of want to spread paint across those areas specifically to make sure that I have a little more to work with as I add on more color. Cleaning my brush off. Dunking it back into the clean water. Back into more of my golden yellow color. And starting from the bottom and pulling upward. And now what I'm trying to do is specifically spread this bright spot and let the brighter color mix with the darker color. Just letting it blend. Doesn't look like much now, but it will look better as we go along. Cool. Now, back into our more of a crimson color. I'm really trying to create a very evening rosé kind of sky. Back into that rosé color. Maybe a little more blue on it this time. And really just kind of letting the colors interact a bit. Similar color, a little more blue on it. Letting it move back and forth to sort of even those colors out. Back into that same kind of bluish purplish tone and right on top. Similar color. Moving kind of crisscross strokes now to kind of make the color more soft. Into a brighter tone that's kind of in the middle of my palette. And very similar, kind of crisscrossing strokes. And letting these colors harmonize a bit as I work back and forth into that little area. And I really am trying to create a very warm glow in that spot. A little bit of crimson, a little bit of yellow, kind of mixing it all together. Into some more blue, pulling that blue into that same little area of color. And again, nice soft crisscross strokes to blend this all together. Beginning to feel my brush get stuck in as the paint gets a little more tacky, which is good. That means that the paint's drying out a little bit. And I am back in with some more blue and right back into that same spot. But again, more crisscross strokes. Trying to let this brighter blue fill in the area where we had the brighter colors earlier. And really letting it spread across the sky. And making sure that I'm applying paint to the canvas. Cleaning off my brush again, back into the clean water. And back into our blue. Starting a little bit higher this time. Again, using those kind of crisscrossy strokes to begin to really fill the canvas. Okay. Rinsing and cleaning my brush, moistening it again, and into our more golden color again. Oop, this is going to be a bit different, but I'm going to come right in with crisscross strokes to really, this is really going to brighten up. What the mistake that I made there, even if I don't really think it's a mistake, is I added a lot of titanium white into the golden color mix. which I think is actually going to be okay. And very similar, I'm just going to spread it along the bottom of the sky. Again, I am beginning to work in layers now, and I'm spreading out the paint thin so it dries very rapidly. As I talk to you, what I just applied is even now beginning to probably get tacky because of how thin that paint is. Back into our, well, let me pull some more crimson in. What I'm doing is trying to make some more of the purplish color on my palette with a lot of red in it. And I'm going to come over on this corner and begin to work this in over the top of that yellow. And just kind of slightly bring it up into the higher part of the sky. Again, very soft strokes, trying to make this paint go as much as I can. And I'm letting the sky turn purple. Now, back into my lighter blues. And I'm going to start right here and begin to also soften with blue as well. Back into that lighter blue color, which is really a mixture of ultramarine blue and titanium white. Pushing my canvas back down a little. Getting a little more of the purple on the brush in addition to the blue. Just letting that soften. Cleaning the brush off again. And back into our blue, maybe a little more blue in it as well to darken it somewhat. Some more of our purplish color as well. Trying to get a lot of it on the brush. Probably a bit darker than what I wanted. That's okay, because we are on top of the yellowish area, so that will brighten it somewhat, especially as I spread it out. Back into the clean water, taking more of our sky blue. And just slowly letting this come across the canvas. And mix into the more purpley color, letting the blue and the purple mix together very nicely. Back into the blue color, and I'm going to begin right about here this time. I'm going to let this come right across. Same color, back into the blue. Yeah, that looks exactly what I wanted it to do. I'm letting it kind of mute that yellow and letting that yellow just be more of a glow, which is really what I want. That was absolutely exactly what I wanted there. It's always nice when my eye and my hand are able to coordinate so well like that. Going to keep working with this blue color that we have. I'm going to keep blending this out lightly into the rest of the sky and letting it interact with the yellow below to form that wonderful little bright zone. More of the blue, letting some more ultramarine mix into it. By working on this side of the painting, I'm also letting the left-hand side dry a little bit. Cool. Now, taking some of the titanium white and working it back in with phthalo blue to try to create some more of our sky blue color. It's looking a little bit too white still, so I'm mixing a little more blue. That looks kind of good. So I'm going to come right here. And again, let this kind of work in with that yellow, as well as a darker blue. And let this kind of be a little bit of a neutral area. while still seeming rather bright relative to the left-hand side. Cool. Now, same color. Cleaning off my brush. And going right back into that same color. And letting this really blend together. Pulling more blue onto my brush and working it in. Cool. Now, I want to begin working a very similar color onto the left-hand side. Maybe mixing in some more titanium white and phthalo blue. And letting those also interact with some cadmium red. What I'm getting here is a very like pinkish color, which I kind of like. So I'm going to scrape some of this onto my palette to get less of it off the brush. Clean my brush off in water and paint my paper towel a little bit. Really make sure I'm getting a very clean brush. Into my clean water. And right about here. Cleaning it off again into the clean water. Same color. Again, trying to work the bottom here a little bit. Now I am going to need some more phthalo blue, so I'm going to take that out of the tube now. I'm sorry, ultramarine blue. And I'm going to try to pull some more blue. Oops. First we're going to clean our brush off. back into the clean water. And I'm going to pull some more blue into that pink mixture I just made. And really create a tone that's kind of in between the two. And right about here, I'm going to let this mix in. Cool. Now, same color. Trying to get a little more white on it this time. And letting it mix in. Pulling some titanium white and some blue together by themselves without the red in it. And right here. And again, just trying to fill this area up a little bit and letting these colors blend and interact a little more. And as I'm layering them up, I'm creating little areas of interesting contrast. Some more paint on the brush. I'm just going to apply it over here. And begin to spread that across as well. Cool. Now, I want to begin working from the center a little bit again. And I want to do so now a little more carefully. In fact, I think I'm about to do something that's very bold. Because I'm going to put away my flat brush. And I'm grabbing my palette knife. And with my palette knife, I'm going to just pull it through and grab some cadmium yellow and try to get more of this titanium white cadmium yellow mixture up. I'm not quite getting what I want, so see how this works. Cool. Not exactly as I wanted, so we're going to take our brush, a little bit of water on it, and just dry blend that up. Clean the brush off some. Pull in more cad yellow, titanium white, and phthalo blue. The color that I'm seeing right now is a bit too green. Again, I'm really trying to make sure that I'm creating bright spots in the painting, because that's what's going to capture and gather the eye in the end. So I'm okay with this yellow taking over a little bit and filling in the areas of the painting that I want to be bright. And because the paint underneath is a little bit dry, it's going to spread over this very well. Cool. Now, I would like, so now of course there needs to be a little more blue in this, so I'm going to clean my brush off again quite thoroughly. And try to make a lighter blue shade that I can mix in with our yellow. Probably a little bit darker than that, because the yellow is really overpowering it. Just mixing in more ultramarine blue to let it get darker and to let the sky become a little more harmonious. Cleaning my brush off again. Back into the paper towel. Wetting it a touch. My clean bowl is a bit dirty now as well. Pulling in some more blue. And what I am trying to do is just blend out some of the values that we're seeing here. And I'm probably going to grab some of our pinkish color next. And let that work in as well. Mixing it pure blue again and letting this fill in a little bit. Cleaning off my brush and Back onto my little paper towel. Dampening it again. Back into that very clean blue that we have. And again, cleaning it, coming back in, and I'm going to be in. Basically, what I really want to try to do is spread this blue entirely across the sky now. Maybe letting it become a little bit darker as I move across and away from our bright spot. And it's very similar to trying to let this blue spread across and harmonize with the rest of the canvas. You can see a little more paint on there, so I'm just going to try to apply that. Cleaning off my brush a little more. Thank you for those of you that are watching. Feel free to drop me a chat if you guys have any suggestions for me or any area that you want me to work on. Again, really trying to have a bright spot here. It's going to draw the viewer's eye in as they kind of move across the top of these haystacks and get trapped in this area here. So I really want to have a darker and weight pushing the eye in on these two corners. Letting some more blue mix in as I get further and further to the left. Pushing down the canvas again. Back in to my paper towel, cleaning off my brush, wetting it, and then back into our blue, trying to get a little more of the pink in here this time. And right here. Yeah, that looks fantastic. Just like this. I'm going to take that same color again with some more blue mixed in. And come right along here and fill this in a little bit as well. Now that my yellow is a bit drier, I'm painting over it rather than mixing it, which is also kind of what I'm looking for. Now I want to have this redder tone be lower in the sky with the bluer tone higher in, because the red is a bit warmer than the blue. Right, Biv? So our blue is at the end, whereas this more red color, it is a little bit violet, but which would be on top, but imagine that's more red versus the violet that it is. Okay. Some more paint on my brush here that I want to make sure I use. Sorry if the canvas moving around a bit is not great, but it is what it is. Okay, now I want to begin taking my lighter values of blue and start to mix them in again. Mixing them in and softening them. Okay, now back into those same lighter tones of blue. I was trying to kind of get rid of some of the rougher edges along the top of the canvas here. Quite a lot more paint on the brush there, so I'm just going to put that right there and spread it across. And I think try to clean my brush a little bit on the canvas. And smooth out the top a little bit. Okay, again, back into our lighter shades. Now here, I'm going to grab a little bit of yellow. I'm going to try to mix that in as well. It's looking like it's quite a lot of bit of yellow. So I'm going to keep adding on blue until I feel like, and white until I feel like I have a color that's kind of in that sky area that has just a hint of yellow in it. I think this is good. This should be a nice in between. Yeah, it is. Cleaning off my brush again. Back into that kind of same almost seafoam green kind of color. And I'm going to follow along the top of where our tree line eventually will be. Cool. Now, I want to, pardon me, take more blue and more white. And work right here. I also picked up some violet here on my brush as well. Trying to work this along the top of the canvas while cleaning my brush off and while smoothing off some of the top of the canvas some. Back into the water bowl to clean the brush. More paper towel. Might almost be time for a new one. Back into our blue mixture. A more bluish sky mixture. Has a little bit of white in it. We're going to come right back into that same area. Again, really trying to make the area of our yellow more prominent and juxtaposed to the blue of the sky. Just gently trying to work this into the painting and work it down into the yellow tones to make it a little more harmonious again. More ultramarine blue, more titanium white. Catching a little bit of yellow here as well. Cool. More blue into that same mixture. This is likely going to be mostly ultramarine blue, so I'm going to try to pull some more of our magenta color in as well. I grabbed some yellow, so I'm putting this lower in the sky. Oops, I went too far there. So what I did there was I introduced a darker spot into our center area there. I think I know how to fix that, so I'm going to leave it for now. I'm just generally going to mix this color into the sky a little bit before I grab some more blue. Paper towel again. Pulling my brush through the paper towel to really clean it very well. Back into my more seafoam color. This is going to be the brightest and wettest one. So I have to be very careful with how I apply this. Be very gentle with it because it will spread and cover a lot of area. It's a very wet part of my palette. So I'm going to go very slow here as I work this in. I don't want it to spread too much. I want it to stay localized to this area. In fact, I may even bring it down instead of up. Okay, now the next thing that I'm going to do is try to grab some more of our blue color. And just work this into the sky a little. Cleaning off my brush. Same color. My brush is a bit wetter this time because I want to grab more paint. More white. And just working this through. Letting the light color blend over the dark. A lot more paint on the brush here, so I'm just gonna try to apply it on and then spread it back out. Really just let this spread into the corner and down. Cool. I think what I've really done here too is create a really good sense of movement, because I can really almost feel like there are lines leading in this direction as well. Or vice versa, drawing in that way toward that middle piece. Same color, loading a lot of paint on the brush, and just working my way across this area here, where I can feel the paint's a bit rougher. So making sure that I'm filling this in a little more. Cool. So I'm going to allow that area to dry fully. And what I want to do next is take the area that I want to focus on next, I think, is this area here. And I think I want to begin to block in some thicker color on that area. So to do that, I'm going to pour out some more raw umber. Whoa. Ended up being quite a lot of raw umber. I'm going to let my brush, actually, I'm going to take out some yellow ochre as well. I'm going to pour that out right near it. And then I think some cadmium yellow as well. Just to give myself like a cad yellow that's separate from the part of the palette that I'm using to mix my sky. And these are the three colors that I want to use to make my earth tones. And to really try to make a very golden appearance. I'll add some white to my palette nearby as well, just to give myself something to dull a color if I have to. But ideally, I shouldn't have to do that. So now what I'm going to do is, with a wet brush, I'm going to pull the raw umber, the yellow ochre, and the cad yellow together. To see what I can make. Probably more yellow than raw umber, because I want this to be very dark in value and very golden. Sorry, very light in value, sorry. Good. I've also added some white to it as well, and what I'm going to be doing is just working in along here. Doesn't have to be perfect, but I am trying to avoid the tops of the haystacks. And I'm trying to also create a horizon line here that's quite apparent. Notice how I've also changed my brush, so I'm moving it across the narrow part of the brush versus the flat part of the brush. And I'm letting that create the texture that I'm looking for. Notice how I haven't really touched any of the paint that's clogged up on there. So I'm going to clean that off my brush, paint my paper towel a little bit, clean off my brush, and then begin to work in some darker values there. Well, I think what I'll do first is take some more of that same color, maybe a little bit more yellow ochre in it, and work that over here. Try to be mindful of the direction my brush is flowing in. I want this to be very flat. If I change the angle of my brush at all, it will make it will give the illusion of contours, which are not what I want in this particular work. And right now, all I am doing is blocking in some of these new colors to give ourselves some different shades in color to work off later on in the painting. Again, acrylics work in layers, so we want to work in layers too. And this will be just one layer here for us to work on. Try to be mindful of where the hay bales are, so that I use the two different shades in different areas. Sorry if you're getting more and more my shoulder as I work lower into the painting. And really spread this yellow ochre out. Cleaning that off again, my brush that is, back into the clean water bowl, which I'm using in quotation marks now, it's not very clean at all. And I'm gonna keep doing the same thing, taking progressively darker shades of yellow ochre, cadmium yellow, and raw umber. Cleaning off the brush again. Darker shade. Darker shade just means more raw umber. Just spreading the paint off this lower part of the canvas. The goal of this phase of the painting is not to add detail. It is really just to add another layer of color that we can touch onto later on, and to add in something that will mix through later on. I am probably going to be painting this over maybe 2 or 3 more sessions. Again, starting where we think we're going to have the bottom of our haystacks, and then spreading the paint from there. Cleaning off my brush. Back into more raw umber. Less of the cad yellow this time. And letting the darker value add depth of field to the field. Clean my brush off again. Back into the raw umber. The horizontal lines here should also lead the viewer into the haystacks, which again will further emphasize and draw them into where I want them to be, which is in this region here. Cleaning off my brush again. Taking some more of the yellow ochre, as well as the raw umber. Getting quite a lot of it, letting it really get happy on my palette. Smooshing it back down, and I'm going to come right here. And just let this mix across. Probably a bit too much yellow ochre, so I'm going to mix in some more raw umber. And again, let that spread across. I'm really falling down the job here now. Oh no, I can hear the tape falling. Cool. Now, more raw umber. A little bit just cad yellow this time. And right here in the bottom corner. Cool. Now, excellent. Our sky is now dry. And I think it's also pretty much complete for what I want. I think what I'm going to do, though, is take a filbert brush and start to debating what I want to do. I think I need some phthalo green. I'm going to apply this right near our yellows and browns. And what I'm going to do is try to pull the yellow ochre, the cad yellow, and the phthalo green together. And the phthalo green is going to be a very strong color for us. I want to make sure I'm mixing in a lot of yellow and then a lot of white to dull it out. I'm really trying to create a golden green color. So I'm pulling in a lot of yellow ochre. Yeah. Cool. Getting some of that on the brush. And I'm just going to begin to come in here and make some kind of very whimsical decisions about where our tree line is going to be. Pulling it down as I do so. And reinforcing that. Horizon line. Taking the same color on the far side here. Maybe a little more of a golden color to give it less value. Then kind of working it back and forth. Similar color, maybe a little more green this time. Disaster waiting to happen there. The fact that we're going to have this green area here is really why I didn't care about the yellow shapes that were on the painting earlier, because they're being very much overridden and enhancing the green shapes that we want. Trying to work a little faster now, because I feel like this canvas is going to fall off my easel any moment now. Now I'm going to take a darker shade here with some more green, with some more phthalo green mixed in. And I'm going to work this along the bottom here. Kind of very gently. Add some depth to these tree lines. I'll probably soften this color in a subsequent layer. But for now, I think it's creating some interesting shapes. That can be a good basis for stuff later on. Okay. I'm going to try to take a lighter shade that's kind of similar to that. And they do have a similar concept, but maybe a little more gold on it, and come along here and do something kind of similar. This is probably much closer to what I was looking for in value. Okay. I'm going to do one more thing, and then I'm going to end the stream. I feel like my canvas is going to fall off the easel any moment now, which is an omen for me to stop and fix it. but I will do that off camera once the stream is over. More of our darker shade, and I'm going to try to lighten this value somewhat. Sorry, I was standing in front of the camera, didn't realize it. Well, I actually think that darker shade's kind of working out now because it is creating more texture. To quote Bob Ross, every shadow needs a highlight. So that is definitely something that's working out for me there. Similar color, right back in, letting it add some depth and texture. Cool. Gonna wash off my brush one more time. And then I'm going to, I think, end the stream. Thank you to both of you who are watching now. I do appreciate the time you invested in watching me paint. Hope you enjoy the rest of your Saturday. And I am going to wrap us up right here. Feel free to give me a chat or leave a comment once the video has been uploaded. If you have any advice to give me, or if you would like me to make any changes to the painting. Thank you for watching, and enjoy the rest of your Saturday.